What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Au, starting your week with the news from here in Taipei. Cyber attacks on Taiwanese public and private institutions doubled last year, with the vast majority coming from China. That's according to a new report from Taiwan's intelligence agency. Now, Reese Ayers is live in Taipei with the details. Reese, that is a huge increase in attacks. What do we know about them?
Well, Eric, that recent report it's from Taiwan's National Security Bureau. It says that the average number of attacks on Taiwanese systems has doubled from 1.2 million to 2.4 million attacks per day from 2023 to 2024. Now, Taiwan's intelligence agency is saying that it's able to fend off most of those attacks, but just the sheer volume of the activity demonstrates the increasingly severe nature of China's hacking activities. Now, let's take a look at what and who China is targeting here in Taiwan. The report says that most attacks, around 80%, are targeting government networks. There's been a steep rise in attacks on the telecommunications sector, financial institutions, transportation networks, and even defense supply chains, as well as private businesses. The report also said that the hacking methods themselves are also becoming increasingly sophisticated, using a range of techniques from denial of service attacks to phishing email campaigns that target civil servants to Trojan and backdoor viruses.
Reese, what's Beijing hoping to achieve through all these attacks? What are they trying to do?
Well, the government networks that are being targeted by these attacks facilitate a lot of communication channels between different government agencies. They also store and host a lot of sensitive information, including, citizens' health insurance details, labor details, and also, tax information. All of that could prove quite valuable information for Beijing, who, remember, claims Taiwan as part of their own and hasn't ruled out taking it by any means necessary. Access to that confidential information and networks could help China take Taiwan offline should they choose to make a move, and also cause disruptions to infrastructure across the country. They could take down transport networks, financial institutions, energy grids. That would all make a blockade or an attack much, much easier, and could also send Taiwanese society into a state of panic. But Taiwan won't take all of this lying down. Last year, President Lai Ching-te, as part of his Civil Defense Committee, is trying to strengthen Taiwan's technological resilience and also raising public awareness of the different ways that China is trying to access Taiwan's most sensitive information.
Thanks for that, Reese. That was Reese Ayers reporting live from Taipei. Chip-making giant TSMC's stock price has soared to a new high. Shares in the company reached about $35 on Taiwan's benchmark TAIEX on Monday, and that follows strong gains in TSMC shares on the New York Stock Exchange late last week. This new high comes on the heels of booming demand for semiconductors, driven by artificial intelligence. The market for TSMC's 3 and 5 nanometer chips is especially hot. The company plans to start manufacturing its new cutting-edge 2 nanometer chips this year. Impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is holed up in his Seoul residence as the clock ticks down for anti-corruption investigators to detain him for questioning over his brief declaration of martial law. Rosie Greninger has this story.
Thousands of protesters braved the cold on the streets of South Korean capital Seoul. One side rallying for and the other against embattled President Yoon Suk-yeol. The leader was suspended and impeached for his short-lived declaration of martial law just over a month ago that plunged the country into political chaos. But he can only be removed from office by the Constitutional Court that is still deliberating whether to uphold the impeachment. Yoon is now under investigation, with a warrant out for his arrest for refusing to appear before investigators. Many here want him to answer for his actions.
이렇게 부당한 사회에 너무 순응하지 않고 저기서에서 반대 집회를 하고 있거든요. 꼭 저희 나라가 올바른 민주주의로 갈 수 있도록 모두가 힘을 맞췄으면 좋겠습니다.
그래서 계속 나올 것 같아요, 앞으로도. 대통령이 탄핵될 때까지도 나올 거고.
But Yoon's supporters have also come out in force, calling for his impeachment to be declared invalid, arguing it could threaten the country's security.
지금 우리 대한민국은 중공 프락치에 의해서 프락치들과 거기에 종속된 인간들과 우리는 싸움을 하고 있습니다. 우리는 곧 다시 회복될 것입니다.
우리 국민들이 완전히 대통령을 지지하게 됐습니다.
As demonstrations continue, Yoon is holed up in the presidential residence, facing criminal charges for insurrection and abuse of power. Anti-corruption investigators were blocked by the presidential guard when they attempted to detain Yoon a few days earlier. And with less than 24 hours until Yoon's arrest warrant expires, the head of the security service has reaffirmed he has no intention of complying with the warrant.
지금 윤석열 대통령은 비록 탄핵소추안이 국회에서 가결된 상태이지만 주권자인 국민의 손으로 뽑은 현직 대통령이 분명하고 법이 정한 대로 그에 상응한 경호를 받고 있습니다.
According to local media, anti-corruption authorities are preparing to attempt to arrest Yoon once again, also considering applying to extend the warrant's validity. As the next political moves are being mulled over, protesters here insist on remaining on the streets. Both sides adamant they are fighting for South Korea's democracy. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in South Korea, seeking stability in the two countries' alliance amid Seoul's political crisis. Blinken is not scheduled to meet impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, meeting instead with acting President Cho Sang-mok. He will also meet with Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yul. Seoul is a key security ally for Washington, with thousands of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea. Blinken is expected to stay clear of local partisan politics during his trip as protesters continue to rally against Yoon.
제가 개인적으로는 불안하다 생각해서 미국 쪽에서도 일단은 와서 좀 상황을 보려고 하는 게 아닐까라고 그냥 짐작만 하고 있는 겁니다.
After South Korea, Blinken will travel to Japan and then to France. It's likely his last trip as Washington's top diplomat, with President-elect Donald Trump set to take office in 2 weeks. Partisan tensions is threatening to boil over in the legislature, with the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and the main opposition Kuomintang threatening mass recall campaigns against each other. And amid this bitterness, one lawmaker has even suggested dissolving the whole chamber. John Van Trieste reports.
A new year has started with the legislature in an uproar. Though the partisan divide has always been bitter, rancor over controversial recent amendments now has the two biggest parties threatening each other with a political showdown. Over the weekend, Democratic Progressive Party whip Ke Jianming threw down the gauntlet with a call to wipe out much of the rival Kuomintang's caucus through a nationwide mass recall campaign.
我们要双罢，第一个要罢免政务院长，第二个要罢免国民党41个区域立委。
That would mean the ousting of every Kuomintang district lawmaker elected last year, decimating the caucus from the biggest in the chamber to a tiny 13-seat minority. Ke has justified the move by saying the Kuomintang has pushed through bills that are either unconstitutional or put Taiwan's interests at risk. Though there aren't yet any concrete plans to carry out this threat, the Kuomintang already says it accepts the challenge and may retaliate with a recall campaign of its own.
面对民进党来势汹汹的大罢免潮，我们一定会正面迎战，在一些区域里面也会针对民进党的立委都有可能成为罢免的对象。
But the rhetoric hasn't stopped there. One of the most divisive of the recent bills, one that would set new rules on the Constitutional Court's ability to hear or rule on cases, is up for a revote, and the Kuomintang is likely to get it passed a second time. To prevent this, the Democratic Progressive Party's whip wants a referendum on dissolving the whole chamber. Legal experts say that's not actually possible under current laws.
所以呢，如果要用公投方式的解散国会，基本上来讲，唯一一个可能性就是修宪。
But even if all of it, from threats of recall campaigns to threats to dissolve the chamber, is just political bluster, it is an escalation. and just days after DPP President Lai Ching-te said he wanted to bridge the political divide between the parties. If this latest escalation is any indicator, it could be another turbulent year ahead for Taiwanese politics in 2025. Klein Wang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus News.
India's foreign ministry has launched a diplomatic protest after China created 2 new counties in the disputed Aksai area. One of those overlaps with the territory that India claims as part of its Ladakh region. For more on what this means for India-China relations, our reporter Ado Brar spoke to Jabin Jacob of Shiv Nadar University in Noida, India.
China has announced 2 new counties, and these counties overlap with the Aksai region that India claims. What's the significance of this announcement?
It's part of what I would think is this lawfare approach the Chinese have employed for a long time of using legal means to solidify administrative and political control over disputed territory. If you recall, the Chinese have been engaged in a similar exercise, a somewhat similar exercise in Arunachal Pradesh, where they've been renaming places well inside Indian jurisdiction, Indian territory, since 2017.
Could you explain the history of the Aksai region and its significance to India-China relations?
Aksai has always been claimed by India. This is a claim that has come down to us as a result of the Republic of India taking over from the British Raj. Now, the Chinese have obviously never accepted this claim. And in fact, one of the sort of reasons why the India-China boundary dispute post-Indian independence and communist liberation in China sort of scales up is the discovery by the Indian side, by an Indian diplomat in China, in fact, of a road being built through Aksai which which has always been shown as part of Indian territory in our maps and so on. The road was being built between Xinjiang and Tibet, basically to connect to Tibet. And so this road was discovered, and the Indian side made a representation to the Chinese, and the Chinese simply said, well, old maps and so on, and that they were yet to update their maps. But essentially, this area became a site of one of the sectors of conflict in 1962.
Will this development complicate the ongoing talks between India and China to reduce the military tensions at their mutual border?
So here, I think there's an explicit action in territory that India clearly claims as part of the India-China boundary dispute. So what this means, coming so soon after the recent last round, or so-called last round of the disengagement process, as well as the special representatives meetings in Beijing, is that, well, the Chinese don't particularly take Indian claims seriously or Indian reactions seriously, that they feel that they, can do things without much of a pushback from the Indian side. So I don't think it speaks well of the state of India-China relations. It doesn't speak well of the degree of trust that exists in India-China relations.
That was Jabin Jacob, a professor at Shiv Nadar University, discussing the state of India-China relations. And thank you for joining us here on What's Up Taiwan. If you want to get more of our reports, head over to our website or download our mobile app. Finally, we head to Colombia, where revelers celebrate cultural diversity at the annual Black and White Carnival. I'm Eric Gao. Take care, and we'll see you next time.